Good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're listening in from. I'm coming on today a little bit earlier because I've got an evening engagement here in the UK. I'm actually going to a drawing class, and today I was going to talk about hormones here and strength. That's the topic we're on, the kind of theme of the month, the pillar. And yeah, what do I gain strength from myself? A lot of the time, it's actually having time out. And so tonight, going to an art class would be a great space for me to have some sustenance, which is going to keep me juiced up for the coming weeks because I know I'm going to enjoy that space. And, it's a speed sketch night. There's no boss, there's no criteria saying it's got to be good or it's got to be a certain way. It's just fun, really. And I'm sure for some of you who are not drawers, you just can think of nothing worse. But there might be something that you do that I'm like, oh, I don't know if I could do that. So thinking about hormones and strength, and immediately takes me into a place of groundedness. And there's lots of information here, lots of talks here about becoming more connected, not just to other people, which is an important part of strength actually, but connecting to the ground, and I've done a series of meditations myself live through COVID really, because I realized people needed that support and strengthening action really. And a lot of what we do, in the meditation space is we ground into, connecting with the earth and draw strength from that. So much of what happens to us detaches us from the earth. And that can be heady news, heady information that comes our way, busy work schedule, lots of demands. These kind of things detach us from our roots and can seem like we lose strength because we're spreading ourselves too thin with the concerns that are brought to us, quite genuinely, friends, family, and obviously the workplace. So this sense that we need to come back to ourselves, that we need to draw strength from the natural space, from the earth space, can be a really like a lifeline for us. And, I was thinking I had to write some stuff recently about what were my personal, touchstones for stress. And one of them was yoga. What was my life story? And I've practiced yoga since I was 25 and I was first pregnant. And I don't think a week has gone by when I haven't done some form of yoga, when I haven't gone to the mat, when I haven't let go of perhaps my worries and taken it to a space where also, as a single mum in North London, in the UK. And so, there were times when I needed someone else to be in the driving seat. If we're always in the driving seat in our life, always having to maintain a strong sense of something for other people, where do we draw our own personal strength from? It's really important to recognize that and to have what I call touchstones for stress. So for me, it's always been a strong yoga practice. And I often wonder where I would be without that resource in my life. And the shape of that yoga has changed a lot throughout my life. So obviously, when I first started out, I was pregnant. It was early days in pregnancy, and I was doing pregnancy yoga, and that was appropriate for the time of life that I was in. And then as I moved through, and my children got older, it became a space where I had time to myself. And they went into the nursery or maybe were looked after by somebody else. And that time out from what was generally going on was often what I drew strength from. And then there's actually physically becoming stronger through a physical practice. And that in turn will feed other aspects of our health and including our hormonal health. So, I got into doing what is pretty current yoga, vinyasa, Iyengar, Hatha, stronger forms of yoga than perhaps I did during pregnancy, and also began to get into meditation. And then at some point, when I things began to change for me hormonally later in life, as I went through menopause, I really needed to adopt a different type of yoga. And what happens in menopause for many of us is that two organs start not to talk to each other as they should do. And those organs are the liver and the kidneys. And the liver processes all our toxins, and it tends to, if you can't process them and get rid of them, it tends to store them and hang on to them. It doesn't really know what to do with them. And that's particularly things like heavy metals, pesticide residues, synthetic hormones. And I think what happens at menopause is all of this comes up for sorting and sifting and being looked at. And it's like a great sorting hat from Harry Potter stories, where everything gets gone through, and we need to learn often to let go. So the liver can become quite congested, is what I'm saying. It's can become quite stagnant and slow in its action. And much of what we need to do at menopause is to let go of toxicity in the liver. So the liver it should be a strong organ for us. It's quite a yang organ. It can heat up. It can suffer in certain situations. If we've had to put up with a lot of work, then our liver will suffer. If you have to work hard, if we're going through a workaholic stage, our liver will suffer in a not dissimilar way as if we were drinking alcohol or smoking. So, we can put ourselves under similar kind of stresses if we're not careful. So the liver tends to become congested as we move through menopause for most of us, and we need to let go of some of this toxicity. And then the kidneys tend to become depleted in their energy. The adrenals that have been trying to produce an egg every month to be fertile, and the kidneys and adrenals are part of the same system in Chinese medicine. And I know I've talked about that here in this space before, but the kidneys sit at the back of the waist, and on top of them are the adrenals. And the word literally means adrenal. Renal is the word that we use for the kidney and the kidney system. And so they're added to the renals. They're just on top. And they look, when you look at your biology books, they look like a little kind of cloak draped on top of each kidney. They're quite small organs, but they're responsible for so much work. And one of the things that the adrenals do for us is they pump out cortisols, and cortisols are our strength hormone. They're our true strength hormone, backed up by a little bit of testosterone, which we also need. To some extent, all the hormones have an aspect in terms of strength, but I'll come on to that. But the adrenals really pump out cortisols, and those are our strength organs, that are strength hormones, and they are what help us stand up to a threat, be that a person that's threatened us, be that a situation that has frightened us or alarmed us in some way, and we need to figure out how to get out of it, and we need strength to get away from that situation. So the cortisone is like something that we pick up and use when we need it in order to do an action of strength. And so it can fight for us. It can prepare us for flight if we need to run away. And what happens when the danger is gone is that we should pull back from that having to be strong and be able to relax. When the danger's past, we should be able to relax, restore, regenerate. But for so many of us these days, there's an awful lot of awful lot of stress. So we are having to be continually strong. And ultimately that exhausts the adrenals, it depletes the kidneys, and that has a knock-on effect of depleting the ovaries as well. They're all in the same, as I say, meridian energy line in Chinese medicine. And the upshot of all of that is that as we go into hormonal change, the kidneys get stressed. So many women might experience for the first time in their life UTIs, in urinary tract infections in menopause. They might experience feeling terribly tired, which they used to having energy. And so, for me, that was a sign. The sign came before my periods. I would get very tired. I would feel chilled, and I would feel like my system's slowing down. And that was a sign, really, I didn't know how to listen to, that my adrenals have been running and working hard and were becoming a little bit tired of having to work so hard. And that has a knock-on effect for other organs, particularly the thyroid. And the thyroid is an organ which, is really in the fore these days. When I was training 25 years ago, the thyroid was, as a standalone organ, was barely mentioned. Whereas now in my training, my teaching, the thyroid is a very, very important organ to talk about because it's involved in drawing up iodine, which we use for our immune support. So if we want to have a strong immune system, we need a thyroid which is functioning well and drawing up iodine, and then it gets distributed throughout the gut. And about 80% of our immune system functions from the gut. There's other factors besides the iodine that the thyroid's drawing up. And then you've got other little organs called parathyroids that sit either side of the thyroid in the throat. The thyroid's like a butterfly-shaped organ in the throat, and around it are little parathyroids. We have 4 or 5 of them, depending on our kind of inheritance, really. And these help us draw up calcium. And calcium is what makes our bones strong. So a lot goes on in this throat chakra, this throat area, and that can come up for sorting at menopause, because if we've been running on empty, if we've been pushing our adrenals, it will ultimately affect our thyroid. And when our thyroid is not able to function correctly, we become chilly, we become tired, we hold on to weight, and things tend to slow down. So you can see how, if we maintain being strong all of the time, our hormones can't function in this amazing, beautiful, orchestrated dance that they're supposed to. And what you get is one part of that orchestra clanging away, working really, really, really hard, and we can't hear what's going on in the rest of the orchestra. So I mentioned, a few hormones earlier besides cortisol and the corticoids that come from the adrenals. And they were hormones that we really, think of as being primarily female. And that's estrogen, that's dominant in the first half of our cycle, and progesterone, that's dominant in the second half of our cycle. So if you're still menstruating, the cycle falls into these 2 halves. And what happens in the middle is we become fertile. And it's what we call ovulation. And as we build towards fertility and being at our fertile peak, that is the job of estrogen. So estrogen has a strengthening, a quickening, an initiator reaction for us. And it is dominant in the first part of our cycle. It's dominant right at the end of a pregnancy. It's what takes us into labor. So it's like an initiator for us as well. It starts things up, it makes things happen. And so it has more of a yang quality in some ways than progesterone, particularly in our society where we're very estrogen dominant. Progesterone has strength in a different kind of way. Progesterone has true strength of character as a hormone. It allows us to see into the future. It allows us to look into the past. It allows us to make a plan about how to go forward. It's very protective of the group. It's very protective of the family group. So it needs to have an innate strength in it in order to be able to pick up your children and get them out of danger. It needs to have strength in terms of, gathering the numbers in the tribe, in the group, elderly, children, figuring out how they are going to get through the next period of time, if there is a threat in some way, or if we need to provide food for those people for, the coming months, because we're going into the winter months and we need to think about storing food in order to have enough to go around to keep everybody strong through the winter. That is the role of progesterone, the planner, the caring hormone, the one that kind of contains, holds, gathers. It does that when we're pregnant. It's the dominant hormone in pregnancy. And if we can't make progesterone. We can't hold baby. We don't have the strength of muscle, the strength in the womb. So progesterone informs connective tissue, muscle, to be strong, to be supple. And it's not that estrogen doesn't have a role in that. It does have a role. They come together in that. But progesterone is very much about suppleness, strength, etc. And so for many of us, we need to cultivate progesterone, cultivate that more calm hormone. And a way that we might do that is by initially is by increasing magnesium in the diet. So magnesium will help us draw up calcium and phosphorus, what bones are made out of to make strong bones. It will help us draw up potassium to help regulate the waters of the body, the blood pressure, etc. And so you've got this wonderful mineral. It's the third most important element to us as humans. The first most important element is oxygen for the breath, followed by the iodine, which supports, as I've said, our immunity, followed by magnesium, which has so many different roles in the body, hundreds and hundreds of roles. And so I've only mentioned a couple, but it relaxes nerves, it soothes nerves, it relaxes and soothes the muscles of the body. But it has many, many other functions. And one of the ones that I often talk about in relation to hormones is this helping us draw up the minerals that we need to make strong bones. So, you can get magnesium into your life very, very easily. I'll put a link to a very good supplement below. I'll probably pop that in tomorrow. You can use a magnesium spray oil if your skin's comfortable with that. For me, that was a total game changer in menopause. And you can take an Epsom salt bath, or you can do all of the above. It's quite difficult to take too much magnesium on the skin dermally. That's when you're putting it on the skin or using an Epsom salt bath. Orally, it's easier to take too much, and how would you know that the gut would get loose? It's not particularly dangerous, but if you took too much, you might find that your tummy is a bit loose and the stool is loose. So yeah, very, very important mineral for us that has actions to draw up other minerals that maintain strength for us. And in doing so, it also balances the blood sugar. And when the blood sugar is balanced, we feel safe. And when we're safe, we make progesterone, that wonderful, calm, benevolent hormone that we have in the range of hormones. We women also need some testosterone. So testosterone is very much associated with muscle strength, with going out there and getting something. So it's got ambition written into it. It's got libido written into it. We all need each of these hormones, just to different proportions depending on our physiology. And women have a different hormonal dance to men, but we actually are having very, in the main, the same hormones, just to different degrees. I've got a little hi there. Hi. Nice to see you, Faye. If you've got any questions, just pop them in the comments box. And obviously this is available. So after the event, if you're listening, press #replay to keep the event live for others to come to you. And pop any questions in the comments below. And if I don't answer, just tag me. It's fine. And if you don't tag me, I don't always see it, because Facebook algorithms and notifications aren't always great. But Emma will see it if I don't, and she'll tag me. So yeah, if you've got questions after this, just pop them in here. So I also wanted to put my glasses on, and I'm just going to, the reason for that is sometimes I need them to read stuff close. I really liked this emotional guidance scale. Now, I can't, to my knowledge, screen share as I do in Zoom. Let me see what interactivity is. No, that's polls, questions, and could put graphics in, it seems. I don't really know how to add things. Anyway, I was looking at, I can pop the graphic for this below in the comments, this wonderful emotional guidance scale. that somebody posted earlier on today for Mindset Monday. As the saying goes, we can't always control what happens to us, only our reaction to it. We can't always control what happens to us, only our reaction to it. Yeah, that's about being reactive. We can, of course, be proactive, and of course, being proactive might come with the danger of reaction. But yes, I think it's good. It's coming to balance, actually. It would be very good to keep that in mind, because we do want a balance between being reactive and proactive. And so often, contemporary life right now in the 21st century has us being reactive. At what point were we proactive in a current news situation? Or a current topic of conversation, a topic of, that's buzzing around at the moment, the in topic, the hot topic. At what point were we proactive and we actually decided to initiate something? I think a lot of the time we are reactive. And if we are constantly reactive, again, that it can be very exhausting. So it's about achieving balance between those. But I'll just come back to what was intriguing me about this wonderful upward spiral and downward spiral, and the capacity that we have to move from one side to the other. And I would see, I'm a homeopath, and I've been a practicing homeopath for nearly 25 years. And looking at things on the left-hand side, the upward spiral, passion somewhere near the top. I had a conversation recently with my son about some anger that he was feeling towards family members. And as he went away from the conversation later in the day, I thought, wow, he needs to learn that journey that so many of us take to turn our anger into passion. So if we've been, discouraged, if we're experiencing anger, if we find ourselves in the place of blame, that's a very fiery, yangy energy. And if I was to transpose that into a positive emotion, I would say passion. So it might be a journey for us to transpose anger into passion. I would put enthusiasm and discouragement. If your enthusiastic voicings have only been met with denial or being put down, you're going to end up being discouraged. But in the place of discouragement, we need encouragement from somebody, from some kind of practice, maybe. And often that means, I think, with encouragement, it's a sort of, again, it's a kind of nurturing action. While we can feel quickly discouraged and quickly thrown into discouragement if someone bursts our bubble, by being encouraged by others, encouraged by a situation. I mean, I see my homeopathic remedies as little kind of encouraging nudges. I see the bushflower essences that I use like little encouraging nudges as well. I might have stuff around me that encourages me. So through COVID, I had a bunch of flowers on the table every week, that I got on delivery, because that encouraged me. That was a sunny moment that reminded me that, of perhaps what my goal was. So I also wanted to bring in, because I think what jumped out to me when I saw this earlier on today was worry, the emotion of worry, and I thought, you know, worrying is such a depleting energy, as a depleting activity for us, and if we're worried, it really keeps us away from our life's path, our life's goal. So I might use, if I'm overly worried, it's like, where am I going to take that? I've definitely taken that into good counsel. I've definitely taken that into um, a healing session. I've definitely taken that into a homeopathy session and talked about worry. And I remember, as a young single mum, being extremely worried about money and wondering how we were going to get through everything. And a conversation with a friend really allowed me to trust that money would always come. She talked me through observing when I had been short of money and what had actually happened and how actually something had always come to the rescue. And that then put me into a place of gratitude so that anxiety and worry and a conversation and a little activity, a little guided conversation about money took me into a place where I was no longer worried about it. And it struck me sometime afterwards that I just didn't wake up in the middle of the night and worry about money anymore. I didn't have any more money, particularly, but I developed an attitude because I guess I just don't like being in a dark place. Um, and I trained myself into knowing that money would manifest, that we would always manifest what was needed. And we did have holidays, we did get away, um, we did have value in our lives, so yeah. And the friend sent me this recently, which is very sweet. It's a little worry angel, and she's made of glass. And whenever I look at it, I don't think she sent it to me because I was worrying. I don't remember voicing that to her. Um, Maybe she had concerns for me. Um, but whenever I see it, I'm encouraged. I'm nudged back into my friend cared about me. She gave me this. There really isn't that much to worry about right now. And I think, mainstream media can have us thinking all of the time that the world is a terrible place. It's really important to check in with ourselves and look at what actually happened to us today. And was there anything that terrible? Sometimes there is. But for me today, so far, actually quite a lot's got done. There's lots and lots and lots of stuff that I wish I'd had time for that I didn't have time for, and I'm going to find that sometime this week. Got lots of projects on the go, but I'm looking at my little angel and thinking, don't worry. If I really, really got worried, um, I might look at a remedy for worry like this one, Chock. This is for the perpetual worrier, somebody who doesn't know what to do with themselves unless they're worried. And I might take a remedy flower essence like this, calm and clear. And when we come back into ourselves, when we come back into that contained, grounded space, then we are stronger and we make our hormones more efficiently. I just wanted to talk about a few other totems, if you like. So this little worry angel reminds me of my friend, reminds me that I can be free of worries. Maybe I've got worries going on, but I can let go of those. And it might be that it just reminds me I can go to my yoga class, I can breathe, I can let go. All can be well. And that's a good mantra to say to ourselves. All is well, all can be well. Now, this is a lovely, I've got one of these gua sha rose quartz. Rose quartz has a lovely protective quality to it. And I just bought this one in it. I don't use it very often. Perhaps I should. A friend gave me this. It's a lovely heart-shaped one. And you use it with your skin cream, to work your skin, to massage your skin. It feels great, actually. And you should use it a bit more often. I've got a couple of these. But it's also as a crystal, it's very protective for us. As is amethyst, that's another protective one. So if we were feeling that we are vulnerable less than, not protected, that we go out into the world and are easily jangled. And I've had to talk to a lot of clients recently for whom that would be the case. Then, it could be that we employ these protective elements. We make a remedy from rose quartz as well as homeopaths. So I brought in this one, which is called, I'm going to have to slightly look this one up. I'm not a crystal queen, but let me look this one up. I use crystals a lot, but I don't know all of them. It's called, let's just see if I can get the name right, because it's quite a difficult one to say. Chrysocolla. There you go, chrysocolla. Chrysocolla. Beautiful crystal that one of my clients gave me. And what this one has become for me is a connection to my paternal grandfather. Now, I lost connection with him when I was 8 and never saw him again for the whole of my life. And yet I was his firstborn grandchild. So any of you that have got grandchildren know how important that relationship is and how exciting that relationship is with your first grandchild. And those of you that are the firstborn grandchild can probably take yourself back to some kind of bond like that. Many, many, many clients talk about how traumatic it was for them when their grandparent that they really connected to died. And so I've blocked out that connection and completely blocked it out. But recently I did a wonderful family constellations workshop. It was an afternoon yoga, and I knew we were going to do some kind of journaling or writing, but I didn't really know what the person who was working with my yoga teacher, Nadia Narain, was doing, what her work was. I hadn't particularly looked her up. She's called Nicola Dunn, and she's a family constellations therapist. So the two of them were presenting a workshop, and in that workshop, we did some journeying, some shamanic type of journeying, and like a deep meditation. And we went on a journey, a led, guided meditation. And in that, surprisingly, I suddenly found my grandfather. And there were two people close to him that I believe was his mother and his brother. I don't know if he had a brother. I have to go and find this out. But what happened in that space was that some kind of healing took place, and I was able to connect with him. And then I was shown this stone. And so after the session, I went and found the stone and put it into a more prominent place in the house. And I've got a lot of strength from having that stone nearby, from just seeing it on top of, a chest of drawers. I've moved it around a few different places. But I'm suddenly reminded of that connection, which must have at one point in my life been strong. And I have some other kind of evidence of that that's come up recently. And the male energy to a woman is often so misdirected in our lives. And the male energy really for us should have an element of protection. It should have an element of having our back if there is a threat. It should have nurturing around the things that we associate with capitalist society. So money, structure, order, buying a house, the things that we do as kind of grown-ups in society, the society that we live in. That's a kind of male energy. And for many of us, that is completely missing. Whether we are male or female, the archetype of what the older male kind of should bring us is often missing. It's often lacking. So support, protection, I've got your back, you're strong enough to do this, you are worthy. You are capable of doing this. It doesn't beat you up to do stuff, to go and get and claim and achieve. It encourages you, so drawing strength, sometimes we that is lacking in our lives and we need to find that somewhere else. And that can be quite an acknowledgement that we get that strength through, our friends, perhaps through educating ourselves in some way, perhaps through the placement of, objects, mandalas in our life, through knowing that we have certain foods to nurture us. Because, we need to find that strength, that those archetypes in our lives in order to be whole. And it's so often certain qualities might be missing from our lives, and that's what depletes us, and we need to go out and find those somewhere. So I don't know why that kind of took me down that little journey. I just picked up these crystals as I was thinking about what to bring into the space and what brings me strength. So then I just had a friend who's given me a fantastic spray from the Findhorn range. So Findhorn is a wonderful spiritual community up in the north east of the country near Inverness. And this one's actually called Holy Grail, but it's about embodiment. It's about embodying something and becoming something. So I just do a little spray every day, and yeah, some things are shifting. So I also got recently this fabulous oracle cards, or the Herbal Astrology Oracle. And the card that I pulled, I'm doing a 10-day cleanse at the moment. So periodically, about 3 times a year, I do a 10-day cleanse, and I lead people in a group cleanse. We do it with superfoods, my green shake. And at the beginning of the cleanse, I drew a card essentially for the group, and that card was the card of the elder tree, that is. And I've been pondering. Its subtext is wisdom. I've been pondering that in the last 7 days on cleanse, and thinking about what it means to be an elder in the community, and what it means to have wisdom, carry wisdom, bring wisdom to the table. And I am 61, and so I'm kind of moving into, well, the human genome actually lasts 120 years, so I'm just moving into the second half of my life in that sense. Most of us don't live that long. We're somewhere 80 to 90 years if we're lucky. So I suppose I've got a third more if I'm lucky. And lots of my friends are like, do you want to live to 104 and a half? That's how long my granny lived. But think about all that store of knowledge, that someone has by that time, I guess. And anyway, I was just thinking, I connected with the elders at the Medicine Festival in August, and I was like, wow, they are meeting every day and talking about healing the earth, talking about their work, talking about their collective wisdom and healing. I was like, I guess I'm coming into elderhood. So that's where I'm musing at the moment in my life. Oh, thanks, Deirdre. That's a lovely comment. Really enjoying, because you never quite know when you're doing a live and you're sort of rambling on. But yeah, let's pull a few cards before I finish. So if you don't mind, if you'd like one, I'm going to do that. So I've got a few oracle packs that I use, and I know there's somebody else has got oracle cards. So do have a look in the True You members hub shop, because there's some great resources in there, and I think that somebody's actually got an oracle card. And I had intended to pull a card for every day of this cleanse that I'm on, for everyone in the group, but I have to say I have been hugely busy writing stuff, and that hasn't happened. But yeah, so I've sort of simply been musing on what elderhood means and what would I like to take into elderhood. I mean, I would like to take in strength of mind. I would like to take in a strong body, and as I said, I have a strong yoga practice. So that's definitely helping at the moment. I would like my bones to be strong. So magnesium is a big part of my life. It's always in the radar. And I eat a lot of greens. Greens are just, I always say if everyone ate a plate of greens every day, organic, please, we wouldn't have an issue. So this is wonderful. This takes us back to earlier in my life. This is the card is motherwort. Now, motherwort is used during labor. It's a wonderful kind of stabilizing, balancing herb to keep you just distanced from the pain, but focused on the process. And you probably can't read it, but guess what the word is underneath that goes with motherwort? Can you see it? It's strength. So what a beautiful image. There you go. Of a woman and her womb and the capacity to hold the baby, to carry the baby for 9 months, and to give birth to the baby, to pick up the baby in her arms and carry the baby on. Next card is journey. And this is an interesting. It's Mucuna. Now this is not a herb that I know. They're not all. I'm pretty knowledgeable on English herbs. I'm not so knowledgeable on some of the Central and South American herbs. So I would see with that all-knowing eye at the top. Looks like that's a bean. That's right. I have heard about this. That there is something in here about visioning, about seeing into the future. And this is another one which is also wisdom, actually. So I don't know these cards super well. And this is rhodiola. This is a superfood that many would recommend. It looks like it's a rhizome, so a little bit, like a tuber, like a potato or a dahlia. And I'm just going to read that. That is number 37. And then, as I say, I am going to go off to a drawing class soon. Golden root, used in the Russian and Scandinavian traditional medicine. Many studies have been published. Here we go, strength again. As its capacity is to increase physical endurance, longevity, energy, productivity, and resistance to high altitude sickness, to clear fatigue, depression, anemia, impotence, gastrointestinal ailments, infections, and nervous system disorders. So most of our herbs do an awful lot of jobs. I know this one mostly for its capacity to relieve a sort of depressed or low state. But I love that is also wisdom and endurance. So yeah, these are gorgeous. The artist is Adriana Ayales, and I'm following her on Instagram. Lovely herbal astrology to learn a little bit more about plants. To pull a card for the day. Love having cards like this. I've talking of money earlier on. I've got a money manifestation box, which is really cute actually. So yeah, I'll pop a link to that below. So wow, says Deirdre. That is cute. So let me just put a little note here. Cards. I said I'd put in a link to a magnesium supplement. What else did I say? So really we should drink cacao and not coffee. Coffee tends to deplete those adrenals and kidneys and ovaries, that meridian, that part of the body. But cacao is much more strengthening. It's full of magnesium and iron. So yeah, I'll try and listen back and see what it is I said I was going to put in the comments, but definitely it was a magnesium supplement. I remember saying that. So look, have a great evening. I'm going to go and gather my drawing tools and something to draw on and see what transpires tonight. Thanks for listening in. And if you've listened this far, don't forget to just put hashtag replay if you're listening on replay. That really helps. all of us keep our videos a little bit live in the feed. So yeah, have a good evening and bye for now.